Columbus, Georgia, this is your city council. Mayor Teresa Tomlinson. City Manager Isaiah Hughley. Pop Barnes, District 1. Glenn Davis, District 2. Bruce Huff, District 3. Evelyn Turner Pugh, Mayor Pro Tem and District 4. Mike Baker, District 5. Gary Allen, District 6. Mimi Woodson, District 7. Tom Buck, District 8. Judy Thomas, Post 9 at-large counselor. Skip Henderson, Post 10 at-large counselor. Tiny Washington, Clerk of Council. And City Attorney Clifton Fay. Columbus, Georgia, this is your city council.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the October 27th meeting of the Columbus City Council. We are very glad to have you with us. We have a very full agenda this evening. As our city attorney likes to say, we hope you packed a snack, but we're going to keep it moving. So let's get it started. This evening with our invocation, we have Reverend Prathan Powell from World Changes Tabernacle, who's here to get us started on the right foot. We're going to ask him to come forward and present the invocation consistent with his faith tradition. Good evening.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Let us pray. Eternal Father, we come this evening to acknowledge you as the head of our lives. Everything that we do, who we are, where we go, and what we do is in your hand. The members of council, the mayor, the city manager, Mayor Pro Tem, we know that you will guide them and direct them in making the best decision for our city, our community. So I ask you to bless them in each and every way that they have need of. Bless this meeting. Bless those that will come before the council. Let all things that are done today be done in the spirit of decency and in order. We forever give you praise and glory. In your Son, Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. And you may recognize Reverend Powell from his mug in the paper when he was leading the bike ride this weekend, and members of the community and members of World Changes as well. About 100 people joined us in the planning department who had done such a good job on a 5-mile bike ride. So thank you for organizing that. It's very important for the health of the community and recreation and also transportation, and we appreciate your leadership on that. And now we have a special treat. We have Key Elementary after-school program, and we're going to ask the students to come forward, and as they assemble, if you'll stand and prepare to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Wow, really good. Really good. All right, we want to get your names and find out what grade you're in.
I'm Dalen Upshaw, and I go to Key Elementary, and I'm in the 3rd grade. I'm Kanai, and I in 1st grade.
1st grade.
I'm Arlene, and I'm 1st grade. My name is Makila Howard, and I am in 2nd grade. My name is Brandon Manor, and I'm in 4th grade.
My name is Jacinthia Pyatt, and I am 5th grade.
My name is Paige Flint, and I'm in kindergarten.
My name is Elysia Jones, and I'm in the 4th grade.
My name is Elton Fleming, and I'm in the 4th grade. My name is Tayshawn Jacobs, and I'm in the 1st grade.
My name is Ronaldo Solares, and I'm in 3rd grade.
My name is Kamaya Terrell, and I'm in the 4th grade. My name is Jada and I'm in kindergarten.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My name is Jay and I'm in kindergarten.
All right. Great. And you have another helper with you? Yes. Ah,
My name is Ada Horta. I'm working in Key Elementary, and I'm glad I started over here. Thank you.
great. Thank you all for coming. Well, you did a really good job, so I hope you'll come back and help us again soon, will you? Yes. Good. Thank you very much. Have a good night. First, we're going to call forward on the mayor's agenda. We have Chief of Police, Chief Rick Boren, who's going to be bringing forward a recommendation to revoke the alcoholic beverage license of Mr. Jamal Floyd, doing business as the Lux Gentlemen's Club, located at 3752 Victory Drive in Columbus. I know you all had materials in your packs, and also on ECAP. So at this time, we'll turn the floor over to Chief Boren. We'll have the chief heard, and then you'll be heard. Mr. Floyd is represented by legal counsel Stacy Jackson. Yes, sir, Mr. Boren.
Is the city attorney going to make a statement prior to?
Yeah, we'll do that. Hold on a second. Let me get that microphone. Mr. Fay.
As you said, Mayor, we're going to let the Chief of Police go first. This matter is here on his recommendation to revoke the alcohol license and the business license for the Lux Club. The Chief's going to go over certain convictions and violations that have occurred out at this address in the last couple of years, and other various incidents that have arisen in complaints. But we'll let him make his presentation. I know Pam Hodge is here if there are any licensing questions, and then we'll hear from Mr. Jackson and his client, and council will take a vote at the end of the proceedings after hearing all the evidence. Go ahead, Chief.
Good evening. Thanks for the invitation here today. I'm here before you today in reference to Columbus Code Section 19-20, subparagraph A, which gives the chief of police or any other law enforcement agency within the jurisdiction of a business the ability to ask for revocation of a liquor license and or a business license based on convictions and based on other incidents that go on within those clubs in this area. The Club Lux, 3742 Victory Drive, Mr. Floyd is the owner, proprietor of that business. In October the 23rd of 2015, he had a conviction for contempt of court. In Recorder's Court, a 10-day confinement which was suspended upon the payment of a $125 fine. Same time, he had a conviction of failure to pay alcohol excise taxes. He was sentenced to 30 days confinement, suspended upon a payment of $250. And then a third conviction, September the 30th, 2015, ABC employee responsibility, meaning he had the business, but he did not do his management duties that required the individuals to have the alcohol beverage control cards that's required for them to be in that business and to serve drinks or be around alcohol. Disposition of that, $250 bond, forfeited to the courts. I have that paperwork and the documentation from the courts where those fines are certified as taking place. On September the 6th, 1914, an employee there, Melissa Mancha, a female, was also charged inside the club. She was in a management position with ABC employee responsibility She received a $100 bond forfeiture and forfeited that money in Recorder's Court. On 12/15/14, Tyresha V. Smyrie was convicted, was charged on the outside of the club when officers went in there, and he was charged with possession of marijuana. He also had a firearm on his person, and he was supposed to be the manager or the security manager of the business at the time. During the time that a check was run on his person, it was found that he was a convicted felon, and he had been convicted in this county for a charge of burglary. He was bound over to Superior Court, and that charge is still pending. On 9/11/15, Travis Walton was arrested. Travis was working inside the club as a disc jockey. He was charged with possession of marijuana and also employee responsibility, no ABC card. That case is bound over to state court. Also arrested were Maria Jackson, female, worked inside the club. She received a $250 bond forfeiture in Recorder's Court for failing to have an ABC card. Also arrested, Raven McKinney, ABC violations, not having the ABC proper cards inside the business, $250 forfeiture in Recorder's Court. Andrea Barksdale, an ABC employee responsibility charge, forfeited $250 bond in Recorder's Court. That's a total of 6 persons arrested, 4 persons convicted for ABC violations, 2 people with their cases bound over for trial in either state or Superior Court. On May the 14th, 2014, was one of the first occasions that we had at the club where we felt like that Mr. Floyd was trying to circumvent the law by bringing transient entertainers into Columbus. There's a requirement that if you hire people from out of Columbus to come there and perform, then there's a requirement for you to notify the police department prior to them coming. He did this, but he was not within the time frame. In checking those individuals, 2 of them had outstanding warrants. On 12/15/15, officers went in and was doing a security check inside the business, and there was a fully loaded AK-47 belonging to the management behind the counter. On March the 7th of 15, during an ABC compliant check, when officers went in and got the lights on inside, they found 28.4 grams of marijuana and 2.7 grams of crack cocaine on the floor inside the business. Of course, there was nobody standing around the drugs at the time because they had, when officers went in one area, they went out another area. Other incidents that has happened inside the club, on June the 10th, 2014, 2 people reported an armed robbery in the parking lot of Club Lux by men out there with 2 pistols. The victims were a man named Dixon and a man named Farley. There were no arrests made in that because of a waiver of prosecution that was signed by the victims. On June the 17th of 2014, police were called to the Club Lux for an automobile accident that had happened in the parking lot where an individual had in fact left DUI and didn't make it past the parking lot. On 9/18/14, police were called to Club Lux for property damage. Keisha Battle, a patron, she reported to us that an individual had thrown a rock through her window in the parking lot. At the same time, he was carrying a weapon. Warrants were issued for the arrest. On 10/7/14, police were called to Lux in reference to shots being fired. Upon arrival, police discovered 2 vehicles in the parking lot that had been damaged by gunfire, damage to property in 2nd degree, and the victims were labeled here, and no arrests were made in that. November the 19th of 2014, police received a call of a fight and a theft by taking that happened inside the club. An individual reported that he was physically assaulted and had money taken from him while inside the club. On February the 4th, 2015, police were called to the Club Lux in reference to a shooting of Lonnie Toombs. Lonnie was shot twice, once in each one of his thighs while in the parking lot. He had been in the club prior to this. No arrests were made because of a waiver of prosecution. On February the 8th, 2015, police were called to the Club Lux for shots fired call, and there was also property damage done as a result of those shots being fired. An individual reported that his car had been damaged by gunfire in the parking lot. On February the 23rd of 15, a car break-in in the parking lot where a weapon was taken. February the 24th, 2015, police were called to Lux for people under the age of 21 being in the club drinking. Police did discover 2 individuals underage inside the club, and there was an arrest made for false information by one of the individuals. March the 11th of 15, while conducting a shooting investigation, one of the police sergeants was there and discovered 5 grams of marijuana in the parking lot of the club. This was during another investigation. June the 6th, 2015, police were called to the Club Lux in reference to entering an automobile, and she reported that there was a break-in in the car and at that time did not know what had been taken. July 1 of 2015, police were called to the Club Lux in reference to a fight. A female on the inside reported that she had been physically assaulted by 2 other women. There was a waiver of prosecution. July the 11th, 2015, police responded to a shooting on the interstate that later ended up being a murder. And the individual, the victim, had just left this club. We have him documented on tape as being in the club and got up on I-185. Multiple shots were fired into a vehicle and he was dead at the scene. September the 6th, 2015, police were called to the Club Lux in reference to a shooting. And then 2 individuals there, Desmond Scott was shot twice, once in each thigh, while in the parking lot of the club. September the 26th, 2015, police were called to Club Lux in reference to another shooting. An individual by the name of William Haynes and Rashad Haynes, both had been shot, once in the neck and once in the back. Haynes was also shot in the upper left armpit. They had been in the club. The shooting itself took place in the parking lot of the club. On September the 30th, 2015, police were called to Lux in reference to another shooting. Rashad Bailey was shot once in the left leg and twice in the right leg while in the parking lot of the Club Lux. Witnesses reported the individual and gave descriptions in reference to that case. What I have just given you, and a summation of what I have just given you, 5 of the incidents are aggravated assaults. That's an assault with intent to murder, rob, or rape in the state of Georgia. 2 were armed robberies. 1 was a DUI. 4 was criminal damage to property in the 2nd degree. 2 were theft by takings. 1 was a firearm. 2 counts were entering vehicles or autos there in the parking lot. 1 was a simple battery. 1 was a battery. 1 was false information. 1 was a convicted felon that actually worked at the business in possession of a firearm. 2 were possession of marijuana, misdemeanor case. 5 were alcohol beverage control violation. 1 was an alcohol beverage control employee responsibility violation, which was the owner. 1 was failure to pay alcohol excise taxes, which was the owner. And 1 was a contempt of court for alcohol excise tax, and that was the owner. 10 of the incidents were involving firearms. 28 reports have been generated, and 2 people under the age of 21 were located inside that business. And the 1 investigation where the individual was in the club, we had him on tape inside the club, that was later killed on the interstate murder. That investigation is still ongoing. I have documentation, I have reports here for anything that you might want more information on. We did a 911 report where there were 35 incidents that were reported through the 911 center in 24 months. I feel like that this is a nuisance. I feel like the club is a nuisance. We respond. We spend a lot of time out there. When we get there, nobody wants to prosecute cases that occur in there, and we're very, very fortunate that we have not had more murders coming out of that location than we already had. And it's my recommendation to you here today to revoke the license, the alcohol license, as well as the license for the business.
Okay, any other questions while the chief is here, or any questions from Ms. Hodge? Ms. Yvonne Ivy is here, if there are any licensing questions.
I would like to say one other thing. We did basically an audit so that they don't think that this is commonplace in the Victory Drive area. We did an audit on 2 other places, one right across the street and one up for a couple of blocks, as to anything that's reported to the 911 center, any incidents. And one of those clubs had 5 ABC, alcohol beverage control checks by our units within that time frame, and only 1 arrest was made in February of 15, and a total of 10 reports total were made at that club. And another club, we did a total of 5 ABC checks by our units. 3 arrests were made on February the 25th, and 3 reports, only 3 reports for this period of time. So it's not commonplace for this in this area, but it is commonplace for this club. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Chief Boren. If there are no other questions, we'll let Mr. Stacy Jackson come on up, attorney for Mr. Floyd. And while there's no time limit, Mr. Jackson, I know you'll try to keep it succinct.
Good evening.
Good evening. Before making my comments or what have you, and addressing some of the things that the chief has addressed, and also the particulars of the code, there were some comments that my client, Mr. Floyd, wanted to make before council, before I made mine. Mr. Floyd.
That's fine. Mr. Floyd, give me your name and address for the record, please.
Jamal Floyd, 2525 Norris Road, Columbus, Georgia. And I just wanted to say I'm not here to try to dispute or go against anything that the police chief says. You know, we have had problems at the club. And, you know, I personally met with Ms. Tomlinson before, you know, just discussing issues we've had, just being in that neighborhood and kind of being in the middle of a lot of gang violence and a lot of people just bringing their problems to our business at the end of the night. You know, we're one of the more popular clubs in Columbus. You know, we do a good job of promoting and bringing entertainment down. So we get a lot more customers and a lot more people out there. You know, a lot of our problems come at the end of the night, 2:45, 3 a.m. when we're trying to close. And people that don't even come inside of our club, they come up and they start problems. They try to break into vehicles and they do different things. You know, we got 2 security guards that are always on standby outside. And when they do stuff, you know, we don't want to shoot them or harm them. You know, we just, you know, go the extra mile and we call the authorities to come out and help us out with the problems. You know, it's not something that we condone. We don't promote violence. You know, the one time the guy got caught inside with the marijuana, he was put on the ban list. He's not welcome in our club anymore. We've had multiple ABC checks in the history of our business, and that September 11th date was the one date when all of those people were taken to jail at the same time. 2 of them, one of them had a misplaced ABC card, and it was valid in the system. The other one, hers was expired, you know, and that's something I'm not trying to defend. Our manager on duty at the time had failed to check the book and make sure everything was up to date. And, you know, we try to just do our best. You know, we employ more security guards than any other club on the street because we're more popular. We over 6 days a week. We kind of have a packed house all the time if anybody has ever drove by there, you know. And a lot of the stuff that's happened, it doesn't even happen directly in our parking lot. It happens in the overflow parking lots and parking areas down the street where we're not able to provide the security protection that's down there. And, this club was built off hard work. We didn't get a bank loan. We didn't get anything. We worked very hard to open this club up. It took us 10 months from the day we got the lease of the building to we were ready to open. You know what I mean? We out trying to do the right thing, and we addressed a lot of those problems that we've had. We never really had multiple violations of any city ordinance. The one time that I was notified that I was late on paying my taxes, it was because we were in the middle of remodeling our building. Our bathrooms were overflowed, and it was just a lapse of judgment by me. Once I was notified that the taxes weren't paid, I went down and paid them the next day. Right now, I'm in good standings on both of my businesses in Columbus. I'm always paid up, state and locally. That was the one time that I had ever not paid my taxes on time. But right now, everything is up to date and paid. And, we're taking extra steps to try to remedy the problem. That's one of the things Mr. Jackson handed out. Like, we've hired 3 new managers. We got a new general manager with a degree from Howard. We got another ex-military guy that's came on since the time of the second shooting that happened in September. We got a new and improved 3-people check of all the ABC permits daily. We're installing 4 new cameras on the outside of the building just to assist with anything that the police might want to know. And anytime they've ever came and asked me or wanted our assistance in something, we've always been more than willing to help. Even the time when that guy he got shot on the highway, they came down and they asked me if I can help, and I opened the doors. I let them download, all of our surveillance video and let them do what they needed to do with it to help solve the crime. We don't condone violence. We don't promote it. We just, we're trying to run an honest business, and we're just in like a crazy part of town. It's not something that we do. None of my employees, except the one guy, Tyrese, and he was fired immediately. I don't know why he was outside with a gun and marijuana. He was fired immediately. And, we're doing everything we can. We've also, in the last month, tried to incorporate, and we're in the process of incorporating Southside Columbus Incorporated, kind of in the same model of Uptown Columbus. I spoke with police officers down there, and they told me downtown Columbus had problems, before, and they got together and they formed Uptown Columbus, and they got the police to come down, and they were able to pay for police protection. And that's something that we've been doing. We've got about 10 businesses so far. All the guys that are open past 12 o'clock at night, they're on board. They fully support us, and they understand the violence isn't just a Lux thing. It's a community-wide thing where violence is kind of getting out of hand. And, that's one of the things I spoke with the mayor about the first time, just saying that we see stuff coming, and we're trying to reach out and figure out what's the best way of dealing with it. It's not like I'm just sitting back and being complacent and saying, oh, we don't care what happens out here. It's stuff that we address every day. We ban people from the club, we ban people from the building, and, we do our best to keep it upright and keep a positive business going. We had the one, like I said, the one day on the 11th where they came and caught the 2 people with the ABC cards. One was misplaced, like I said, and the other one was expired. But other than that, we never had a girl cited for nude dancing, any prostitution. That one time the guy got caught with the drugs. It's never been a repeat, circumstance, because once we figure out a problem, we do our best to try to address it. We have 2-3 people searching people in the front now. We got a female security guard that checks the ladies, and that's how once we did our little investigation, we found out that's how some of the drugs and other things were getting in. People would pass it to the girls, and they would stick it in places or put it in their purses. So we addressed that issue, and we haven't had a problem there since then. We've also got an outside security company coming down from Atlanta every day, a licensed company in the state of Georgia that's strictly handling our parking lot facility, and they're out there, and we haven't had any issues since the last one in September. They've been doing a real good job of keeping, lingerers out of their cars and from around the building, and, just the bad people that don't mean any good. We get a lot of business, and 99% of the people that come to Lux, we get government officials, we get a lot of people from the city that enjoy our club. They have a good time there. And a lot of them will say a lot of positive things about us. I didn't want to, bring a whole line of people in here and turn it into a circus, but, I just came to speak up for us. And just, the general opinion of us wouldn't be that we're bad guys. It's a lot of problems, and most of the ones he addressed is parking lot issues. You get a lot of young guys, and they want to earn a name for themselves in the streets, so they come to the Lux and they shoot their guns up, or they shoot somebody's window out, and they jump in their car and they peel off. When we find out who it is, we bar from the building. It's just something that we work really hard to get this business going, and it's about 50 people that depend on us every day, that feed their families, including me and everybody else, off of this business. You know, they're not bad people. And you know, we don't want them to suffer from the crimes of other folks. And like I said, we got the Southside Columbus thing going, and hopefully when our incorporation papers come back, we can, you know, follow the lead of Uptown Columbus and start to make Southside Columbus a better place. You know, and we're not just speaking up for the Lux. It's something that we're trying to do for the Carousel Lounge, Homer Bar, other places that are open late night. Jamaica Sea Breeze has parties sometimes, and we're not able to get law enforcement officers out there because we sell alcohol. So, you know, the mayor made a suggestion to me that this was something that we should consider, and once the violence just got out of hand, and, you know, we keep hearing about it, this is something that we just know is needed to be done. So, you know, like I said, I'm not here to try to defend any of the things that's been said. You know, we call the police on the majority of those calls. It's coming from my security company or from me directly, calling the police and telling them, hey, we got an issue. Can you guys come out here and help us out? You know, so, and that's kind of the gist of it. And, you know, like I said, I just wanted to step up for us, just to say that we're not a bad company, man. And, you know, other places have had people get killed and things like that, and, you know, we hate to hear it. And I just hope we can get another chance to show that we're forming a new Southside Columbus and bringing on new people that are, you know, 8 years in the business and educated and helping us do this, that we can turn over a new leaf and show you that we deserve another chance to do better and, you know, live up to the privilege of being able to do business here in Muskogee County.
Okay.
That's
Thank
it.
you.
And I just want to follow up by addressing some of the, I guess, more technical issues as far as it relates to the code section. I'm referring to the required notice given to Mr. Floyd by the chief, the certified letter that was sent to him. Looks like the date was October 9, 2015. And based on that, the Columbus Code Section 19-20, subsection A, looks in summary as it relates to owners, managers of agents been found guilty or pled guilty or nolo contendere in recorder's court or any other court to one or more violations on separate occasions within a 1-year period. And I want to focus on that for a moment because the statute is very, very clear that what's required is someone being found guilty or pled guilty or nolo contendere in recorder's court. Now, what has been provided to me, and I'm assuming to the council and also to the city attorney, is a bond forfeiture. Now, if you look at the strict language of the code section, it says it requires a guilty plea or nolo, where a bond forfeiture is not a plea of guilty. Basically what happens, someone is arrested, there may be, for example, a $250 bond. The bond is a requirement to get out of jail. And the person has an option to go to court the next day or 2 days after, but it is a bond, and if they don't show up for court, their case is not adjudicated or heard by Judge Selinsky or Judge Buckner. In lieu of an adjudication or a hearing, the bond is forfeited and the city keeps the money. So if you look at the strict language of the statute, there's not one single person that documented by the letter that was actually found guilty or pled nolo. So if you look at the language, Mr. Floyd has not violated that specific code section in 19-20A because it requires a guilty plea or nolo. And as it relates to Mr. Smyrie, as the chief has indicated, the case is still pending. It was bound over to Superior Court, and from my understanding, has yet to be indicted. So going back to paragraph 3-11, subsection A, I see that the framers of the code section left it very broad. And I'm assuming that's one of the reasons the chief had went over the list of violations, because it says commission of any acts, federal, state, or local, with anyone running a licensed business with such violations frequently or regularly occur, and which will call the chief of police or director of public safety, the mayor, to recommend revocation of the license. That leaves wide discretion for the council to look at because it's written in such a way that's very, very broad. So with 5 incidents within a month period, a lot. 20 within a year period, a lot. Who knows? That's a very gray and vanilla area. But, one thing who I want to address the conversation that I wasn't privy to, but what Mr. Floyd had told me, that the conversation with the mayor and other individuals, is one thing's different when you look at South Columbus versus Uptown. Now, I don't know the specific policy, but my understanding is that law enforcement officials, whether the sheriff's department or the police department, cannot be paid by a establishment that sells alcohol for security. So it seems a little bit, in my opinion, a little unfair where the bars and the restaurants downtown can take advantage of police presence. Because, as a criminal defense attorney represents a number of criminals, criminals don't usually commit crime where officers are nearby. So, just by their presence alone keeps violence and crime down in the downtown area. But individual businesses that are on Victory Drive cannot take advantage of that. Because it looks like what Uptown has done, or the businesses have found a basic loophole where monies are funneled into Uptown Columbus, and then Uptown Columbus pays for those security officers. Whereas Mr. Floyd has said, the owners on Victory Drive have not had an opportunity to form that type of funnel through it, I would say, to ask those officers or to pay those officers simply be across the street. For example, after talking to Mr. Floyd, there's a Piggly Wiggly open parking lot during the hours that usually Lux is open. The business is closed, and from time to time, officers that would ride that beat would sometimes park their cars over at the Piggly Wiggly parking lot just to see what's going on. And when those officers were there, those nights that they would ride through and provide a police presence, there was no problem at all. People were able to walk to their cars. Even the Title Max across the street, which ended up being an overflow parking area, there was no problem with those individuals getting to those cars because just by the police presence alone. And Mr. Floyd told me he would love to pay off-duty deputy sheriffs or off-duty police officers to patrol the parking lot or even just be across the street. So when people come into the parking lot or park next door, just by seeing their presence, those criminals who maybe want to break in someone's cars or drive drunk or what have you, may change their mind and take that somewhere else just by the police presence. So when I ask council, I ask you all to, as you sit there and decide what the right thing to do for Mr. Floyd business, and just think about that. Just think about some of the things that this young man has tried to do to make improvements. And one thing I did not hear the chief say, I did not hear him say that at one time did Mr. Floyd try to interfere with the police investigation in any of the 35 things that he said. That he locked the doors or wouldn't allow police in, wouldn't allow them to take a look at the videotape surveillance that they have. Not one single time. He said that he obstructed justice or obstructed an investigation. But also, one thing to think about too, we always say, and when we look at the young individuals, the young students that came before the elementary school, we always teach our young people to be entrepreneurs, to try to go and develop business on their own, think for their own, and try to develop business. This is what Mr. Floyd has done. You know, I had a young lady, because I didn't realize that there was an article in the newspaper, there was some media attention this morning, but called me in tears. One of Mr. Floyd's employees, who's a single mother, of 3 minor children who said, well, if the explain this to me, Mr. Jackson, if the council votes to take away Mr. Floyd's license, will the bar or club be open tonight? I said, I'm not sure, but probably not. I would assume that it would be immediate. So her response to me was, well, how am I going to pay my rent on the 1st? How am I going to feed my kids on the 1st? So her livelihood depends on the tips and the money that Mr. Floyd pays her to provide for her and her children. So when you think about before placing your vote, it's not just a vote for or against Mr. Floyd, it's a vote for or against the employees in that establishment. Security guards that work outside, the young ladies that perform on the inside, the gentlemen, the bar back, the ladies that are the bartenders, the DJ, and all those people that he employs. And also one thing, like I said, that even though he was behind, he did pay, he paid that money to the city and the state for those taxes. I'm assuming he's paying all his business taxes and personal taxes on the money that he earns. But what more do you want a young man, especially of his age, to do than be an entrepreneur? He owns another business in town that's in the downtown area, and that's that one thing that he said that you see is a little bit of a disparity, because not one time has the chief mentioned Club Play that's in the downtown area that he's owned, not one single incident. And the reason why is because of the police presence. That's the difference. So, instead of convicting him and taking away the license and sending him on his way, provide him an opportunity to make things better. So what I suggest, and what I'm asking the council, mayor, and the city attorney to do, is allow Mr. Floyd to make these improvements. And one of the things, and correct me if I'm wrong, I've never heard anything like Southside Columbus, the organization that those businesses are putting together, allow him to put his plan in place. Table the issue. Either one, I ask you to make 2 things. One, vote not to take away the 2 licenses that he holds, or if the rules allow, table the issue for 90 days or 6 months and let him put the plan in place. Let him work with the security officers. Let him work with the Carousel, Club Paradise, Homo Bar, Jack and Jill Bar, the Gold's Club, the Above All Tattoo Shop. Let him put the plan in place. And let the chief and his officers do their job, still patrol the area, still do their security checks. And after then, if the plan doesn't work, you all can make a decision as you wish. But at least, give him the opportunity, like some of the bars and restaurants in the downtown area are afforded. Let him come up with a plan to provide that police presence and come up with solutions. And it seems like that's what it should be all about. It should all be about solutions and not convictions. So, with that being said, thank you for your time. And I just ask you, like I said, not only to consider not only Mr. Floyd, but really consider how your vote, trickles down the line. And it's not just a conviction on Mr. Floyd; it would be a conviction on those individuals that work in his establishment as well. And I'll leave it with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything?
Okay. With respect to one of the legal points Mr. Jackson was getting at, Chapter 3, the Alcohol Code, does not require a conviction on the chief's recommendation of numerous violations at this establishment, violations of the ordinances governing these establishments. A bond forfeiture does qualify for a revocation ground of the alcohol license. So, there are plenty of evidence has been put forth by the chief showing violations of the provisions of the alcohol code. So there's certainly evidence in the record to support a recommendation of revocation of the alcohol license if that's the way you want to proceed. Now, we could debate the fine points as far as the business license goes, whether you've had a conviction or not, but normally bond forfeitures are treated as convictions, and you've got the choice to revoke one or both of the licenses.
Okay. Let me see if I can clear that up. So you feel very confident related to the request for revocation related to alcohol license.
Absolutely.
As to the request for revocation of business license, the statute requires some sort of conviction. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you believe that the bond forfeiture constitutes a conviction, or would meet the statutory definition?
It would meet the requirements here, in my opinion.
Okay.
I mean, you can debate whether or not it's a conviction under the misdemeanor law in Georgia, but
Okay. Would it take two, or does it take one?
It's not a guilty plea, but it is evidence of a violation. It takes, under the business license section, it takes one or more violations on two or more separate occasions, and we certainly have evidence of that also.
Okay, so again, to be sure, on the business license revocation, there are one or more violations
on two or more separate occasions.
On two or more separate occasions.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Do we have any questions or discussion by council? Okay, Councilor Davis, I'm going to give you the floor. We are having issues related to our system, and so I'm going to hand you a microphone because they're going to have to close down the system and boot it back up, but we still want to get your discussion, so we'll just pass the microphone around in the interim.
I wanted to ask a question to Mr. Floyd and Mr. Jackson. I hear the point about the security or the security needed and the difference between the areas that were referred to in town, but you are aware that this city has the highest distribution of public safety officers right there in the area that you're talking about, of this business doing functioning. Actually, it has a precinct right there, one of the largest precincts outside of the public safety building. Am I right on that?
Yes, I would agree that the precinct is not very far away, but also even though the precinct is there, but the officers are spread out in a multitude of areas. But the thing that we wanted to point out is that the difference also between the Lux in that area and Uptown, the officers that are Uptown, they're just there downtown because they're off duty. So all they have to do is just circle around that one particular area. The difference is that even though that precinct is there, that officer, for example, could be parked across the street. But what if there's an accident a half a mile away? He has to leave. Then there's no police presence anymore. But Uptown, they're off duty. They don't have to respond to any 911 calls.
That's the same around the whole city
Yes.
as a whole, county. The other question I have, why would you need Mr. Floyd, why would you need a fully loaded AK-47 behind your bar?
It wasn't located behind the bar. It was in the office, behind the desk. And that was just something that was given to me by a friend, just almost like a safety issue just at the beginning. But once we were notified that it wasn't wise to have it in there, we got rid of it. They never saw it again. It wasn't something that was out and about for anybody to touch. It was all the way in the back of the office underneath the desk. So it wasn't in the bar area.
Okay, I have a question now. Thank you. I have a question for the police chief. Chief, I think I've served over 3 terms now in 12 years, and I'm thinking in the last 12 years, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but including what is before us tonight, might be the 3rd appearance that you've made before this council asking the revocation or the close down of a business of this sort under the same grounds?
Most of the time, and you're correct, but most of the time, once we present the problems to the owner, they voluntarily close it down. If they're in an area that they consider to be a troubled area, and we don't have to go through this process. But you are correct. I have been here 3 times.
Well, one of those I remember vividly. I think it was under Mayor or Chief Weatherington's administration, was a club in the district that I represented.
It was.
I wanted to ask you, on par with that, what we're talking about tonight, would it be the same scenario, the same situation? Would it be to a lesser degree of the offenses that we're talking about tonight, or worse than what we're talking about?
I think that you have the same type of offenses that was going on in that location. And we took that to Superior Court and had that one closed down. We just don't have quite as many patrons that are at this location as they did at the other locations when we started having the shootings and the cuttings and the fights and the murders. And it rose to the occasion quickly as going to be a trouble spot for us. And at that point in time is when we moved to close it. We had all of the cars. We had it was taking some time, anywhere from 10 to 12 police units at a time to respond to that area. Now, when we have a situation at this club, you probably will have 5 or 6 cars responding to that, or the amount of cars necessary to neutralize whatever situation it is. So it would depend on the situation as to how many cars would respond. But any report that I have read to you here today, tonight, could be anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour. And that's just on the regular reports with the interviewing and the evidence processes and the storage of drugs, the storage of the weapon, the shells for the weapons once they've been discharged. And if it's a shooting, it could be much more than that. It could entail going back. You could keep that car in that area tied up for an entire shift.
Thank you, Chief. Mayor, I know under your administration, I believe we had another closing not long ago. But in this case, I just want to ask you this. Have you received a lot of complaints from the local community in the area, from churches and others in that area about concerns about this business? I know in the past that's pretty much been the
Well, as
situation.
it relates to this particular circumstance, and Mr. Floyd referred to it, because of the level of the violent, and I think this one is working for some reason, but because of the level of the violent incidences, we jump on those pretty quickly and begin reviewing by pulling reports and things of that nature. And so we were in the process of doing that, and it was reported in the paper that that's what we were doing, and Mr. Floyd proactively called and asked if he could have a meeting, at which point the chief, his vice, some of the members of his vice unit, Ms. Ivy, Pam Hodge, and those that work with these particular issues, including the city manager, met with Mr. Floyd to talk about the seriousness of the circumstances and what he was doing for purposes of remediation. The points made there I'll make again tonight, and that is we welcome entrepreneurs and we welcome small businesses, particularly young professionals who want to be engaged in their own business. However, the sale of alcohol is a high-reward, high-risk business, and a business involving exotic dancers is likewise a high-reward but high-risk business. And when you put the two together, there is a synergy that can result in a lot of chaos, if not managed very closely. And I think what we've seen here is a lack of the proper management of the risk involved in these particular businesses. Also, that's why they're so heavily regulated, is because of the risk and the effect on the community. I sympathize with those who are employed there. As Mr. Jackson pointed out, I certainly want them to have jobs, but mostly I want them to be alive. And an environment with such a high risk, where there are weapons, the hiring of felons that are armed, it's very problematic. And I think we've seen the results of it in some of these most recent violent incidences. And so, yes, there's been feedback from the community, but mostly as public safety director, I base it on the facts of the reports and the incidences of violence and the ABC violations, which relate directly to the functioning of the business. Anything else? Councilor Baker.
Do we have either official or unofficial any type of notification or warning type policy that preempts tonight?
Yeah. I don't know that an official warning policy is required. Mr. Fay, I'll let you speak to the official, if there's any statutory warning. I know there's a notice period.
No, there's just a notice requirement that the chief makes a recommendation, and then anybody affected gets an official notice of a hearing from the clerk of council. So all of that took place.
And
I think my question goes to prior to that. I mean, is there a warning along the way that says, hey, if this continues, further action is going to be taken? Is there any?
Well, that would have been the meeting
Okay,
in my
that's my
office.
question.
Yeah, although it's not required by statute,
Right, I
I think
understand
it's just it would have been done, as I said, and Mr. Floyd did proactively contact me prior to us contacting him, but that's usually the way it goes, as it did with Club Majestic. We reach out to the owners and tell them that they're in peril of losing their licenses.
All right.
Anything else?
Any other questions?
Yeah. Let's get Evelyn here.
We got-
Mayor Pro Tem.
Got one question from Councilor Thomas about when the meeting occurred.
It would have been, well, when was the last shooting? The shooting before this prior shooting? The shooting before the one that was on 185?
I'll have to go back through my notes as far as the date is concerned.
There was two shootings in a row,
There was.
and that's what precipitated the investigation and the pulling of the records.
There was a shooting that took place there 9/26 of 15, and another one 9/30 of 15. The shooting on the interstate took place 7/11 of 15.
7/11. It would have been before that. February of
Another shooting.
2015.
Yeah, it was February the 4th of 15, and that's where shooting took place, where an individual was shot twice, once in each of his legs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that would be about right. February would have been. Mm-hmm. And the Mayor Pro Tem.
So, Chief, you're saying two shootings happened in September at the club?
Yes, ma'am, a few days apart.
Okay. And this might have been asked when I stepped out, but I know usually when we have these kind of cases, it's after 2 or 3 convictions of something dealing with the clubs. In the past, that it was brought to us to close in. And I know a lot of stuff was stated up front, a lot of issues, and I was wondering, I didn't really hear the convictions.
There was other convictions, Madam Counselor, that were other employees. There were also 3 convictions involving the manager or the owner here. And let me get my paperwork for that.
Yeah, if you would just read out the convictions. I think that would be helpful to not mesh them with charges that either were not prosecuted due to the complainant withdrawing.
There was a conviction October the 23rd of 15, and it was for contempt of court based on not paying the taxes, and that was a 10-day confinement suspended upon a payment of $125 in recorder's court. A second conviction the same day, failure to pay the alcohol, excise, taxes, and that was a 30-day confinement suspended upon a payment of $250. And there was another conviction September the 30th of